There are many misconceptions about whether motion gaming is the future and whether it will even have a significant impact on what we would call hardcore gaming. Me being a gamer and me being a Wii owner, I'm convinced that motion controls, like with the game that I've played so far, I'm convinced that if given the proper time and effort, we can have hardcore games with motion controls that will actually, in my opinion, will be better than playing those games with dual analog. I'm not gonna say it will completely take over dual analog, but it will provide experiences that are greater in certain games. And I think that's one thing a lot of, I guess you would call hardcore gamers, like the hardcore gamers, they're not convinced of. And some of it I can understand, but a lot of it is really just BS. Those guys I'm not even gonna try to reach. I'm trying to reach the guys who see something there but aren't convinced that, like, just haven't seen it yet. So for those guys, this is for you. For all the guys who just hate this to be hating, I'm not even gonna be paying attention to you guys, and I urge you guys not to even pay attention to them, because what they're doing is holding us gamers back from experiencing new, different ways of interacting with our games. And I think, like, I don't think that's fair, for us people who want to see motion gaming take off, and these guys who don't, you know, have more of an impact than us. So, pretty much, one misconception I want to really clear up is the casual misconception. Motion gaming is not just for casual, because there are casual games that are with, analog controls, so that's automatically knocked out right there. Or is motion gaming is just for kids? Well, some of the best games ever are, I guess you would call kiddie games. So, like Zelda, Mario, not even just on Nintendo. You got Crash Bandicoot that many of you guys have played and you guys love and you would still play today if they had a good one, because I know they made some new ones, but they were like terrible. So, yeah, if they made a new Crash Bandicoot, Crash Bandicoot that was good, you guys would play it and you know it. Let's see what else. Many of the games that were on the PlayStation 2 that Sony for some reason has not really brought back until now, Sly Cooper, you know, those will be considered kiddie games. But guess what? You guys would love to play them. So that's not true just right off the bat. It's not that out the park right now. But I mean, it's not just for casuals and it's not just for kids. It can be for hardcore gamers as well. Yeah, I don't want to get into the actual controls just yet. I'll get into that later on. Right now, I just want to get on the conceptual misconceptions first. And another conceptual misconception is that it cannot enhance gaming, and I think that's a very misleading statement. Um, because if you say, okay, um, the Wiimote has not enhanced gaming at all, like, not only are you lying to yourself, you're lying to other people who have not experienced um, what the Wiimote can do. Another misconception that I think is just pure fanboyism is the debate on what controller is better than what. And the way I see it, you really can't say one controller is better than one, because I just feel like this Connect is not competing with the Wiimote or the Move. What the Connect is doing is completely different, and to say that the Connect is better than the PlayStation Move or the Wiimote, or even even the Wiimote with Wiimote Plus, it really it's it's pretty much just very stupid, because it's like saying a motorcycle is better than a car. Well, that's very stupid because the motorcycle fits something completely different than what a car is made for. A car is made for multiple people and to carry more things. A motorcycle is purely fit for one to optionally two person. I don't know if that's a word anyway. With a second person as an option, but it's mostly fit for one person. And that's kind of what the Connect is for. You know what I mean? Not for, but that's kind of what the Connect is. It's something completely different. It's a completely different concept. So and as of now, the Connect really hasn't shown any superiority over the Wiimote or the Move. I want to get to Wiimote and Move later on, but right now I just want to get on the Connect. And I have a lot of respect for the Connect. It's like I said, it's not perfect yet, but Microsoft pretty much took the biggest risk with this one. And if you ask me, if they actually pull it off, actually be able to create full length hardcore games, be able to play the games that we like, with no controller at all, they can they pretty much have the biggest reward because that completely changes gaming. Like not even just gaming, it changes pretty much everything in terms of technology, how we interact with technology, because you no longer have to touch technology; it can just sense you. Like it'll see what you're doing and be able to tell what you're doing, and things can happen like that, and that's a very significant feat right there. Like to achieve that is really big. So yes, they're taking the biggest risk, but every advancement that they make with it will impact some form of technology that we will be using or interacting with in the future. Even if the Connect isn't a success, the successes that the Connect has will be very significant in certain uses of technology. But as far as gaming, as of now, the only thing that works well with it are dance games and games that capture body images. I mean, and all that. But as far as actually playing stuff like platformers and shooters, it's not there yet. But it's not. But I think it would be very unfair to say that it can never do it because with the Connect, there's so like the possibilities are so big that you know, and you just can't say it can't happen because people thought with the Wiimote, oh, you can't play a first-person shooter with it, and now you got people doing 360 no scopes with a Wiimote. You know what I mean? And people still have yet to do that on the Move. I'm not gonna get on that yet. I'm gonna get on that later. But with the Connect, that it's a very wide range of things that's left to do, and it's not there yet, but in the future it will. One thing about developers that I've always felt in terms of motion gaming is that they've been kind of lazy, and I think that's me kind of being angry at them. I don't think that's fair. To actually think about how they feel in terms of motion gaming, I think you got to think about the response that they've been getting from motion controls, and the response they've been getting from controls in terms of their core audience has been quite negative. So it's kind of understandable that they're not trying to do a lot of motion controls right now, because right now they don't see their core base um, being very enthused, I guess you could say, about it. And um, to that extent, I can actually understand. So as far as that goes, I think it's up to us to show them that we do want motion controls. Because if we don't show it, they're not gonna take any action towards that. If we're not letting them know in some way, shape, or form that we really want these controls. And some of you really don't, but some of us really do. And I think you guys should respect us and wanting these controls, because I think the biggest thing about next generation of consoles will be you know, player preference, player control preference. And I think that's where Nintendo has succeeded in doing, in certain cases, and I think it will continue to succeed with the Wii U. So thinking about that, I think as gamers we have to actually stop hating so much, and downing developers when they don't succeed in making a good motion game, and actually tell them what they did right and focus less on what they did wrong. You know, because like I said, for the Connect, um, it like I said, everyone knows that dance games work great with it, but in terms of everything else, it struggles because it's a completely new concept. So you can't just make a game like that. Like you're not going to just automatically be able to play Halo on the Kinect. They don't know how to do that yet. This takes time, and I think that's one of the biggest things about hardcore gamers now is that they've been very impatient with motion controls. They've been expecting motion controls to be just like a DualShock, just as efficient as DualShock, you know, in a very short period of time, and that's not realistic. So I think like one of the biggest the biggest success for the Kinect in terms of you know, motion controls would be, other than dance games, would be in the shooter area with the game Gunstringer, where um, you're playing a puppet with one hand and you're moving him, and with the other hand you're shooting. Now a lot of people don't like the idea of using your finger as a gun, but right now that's all they have. But Gunstringer was really a huge success if you really think about it. They were really able to create a relatively in-depth game with virtually no controllers, and that's very hard. Like I know there's a lot of games out. I don't want to say a lot. There are some gamers, like I said, the haters that are hating on Gunstringer because it isn't perfect, and it's like, okay, it isn't perfect, but at least it's a start. You're not going to be able to get the kind of games you want right off the bat. It's going to take time. So Gunstringer was a success. Anyone who said it was a failure is either very impatient or just plain stupid. That was a huge success, and I think a lot of developers are going to reference Gunstringer for new games. Right now, as far as shooters, the Kinect developers really do not know how to move inside the game. So far, all there is rail shooters, and everything else is just on rails. And I think the biggest feat that Gunstringer has made is having less on rails. You know, so you're actually moving the character, and that's very big for the Kinect. So as far as Gunstringer being able to move in the game is very significant. And there will be games that will try to expand on that, especially the second Gunstringer. And so if you're a Kinect owner and you really want a good motion game, Gunstringer is a good one. I haven't played it, but I hear it's very good. So um, another game that I think is very big is the horror game they had for it. Pretty much um, everything I heard about it, pretty much it sucks. It got bad reviews, but just because it sucks doesn't mean that there aren't any successes in the game. There are more than likely some controls that work very well. I think those controls should be known, and Connect users or hardcore gamers who have a Connect and want to see it grow. Those gamers should let pretty much any kind of controls that they find that are good. Let developers know that they're good, and they want to see the Connect grow, because if you don't let them know, they're not gonna waste their time, money, and energy, to make a Connect game or hardcore Connect game, because they're not going to do it if you're just going to hate on it. So for that game, it wasn't a success, but I'm pretty sure there are certain controls that were a success, and those should be known. So like I said, if you don't let them know, they're not gonna know, they're not gonna spend money and time, most definitely money, to make a game that will, work with it. So it's the same thing, with the Wii mode and PlayStation Move. If something works well, you gotta let them know. And I think us Nintendo fans, since we pretty much had no choice, um, we've let developers know what we thought were great, and were a success, and we've received games that, you know, that have, uh, you know, um, complemented those successes.